he's making fresh dough for his buns, and he's putting bacon in the dough, and he's like
Oof.
making like new cheese with like bacon grease and bacon bits, and he's just
Mm.
making new patties with bacon pieces inside.
Is there ever a moment where you just say it's too much bacon?
I mean,
Can
possibly
anybody
that
ever
whole
get there?
process.
At what point when he's starting to do it, is it the bacon
When
grease fused cheese? Is that where you're like,
I
okay,
think
this
it's
is
the
too much
bun.
bacon?
I think
no,
it's the bun for me.
I think it's at the point where you're hovering over your body that's getting CPR, and you're like, maybe that was too much
That's it.
bacon.
They're not even using the things. It's just like two slabs of like Canadian bacon. Hit them.
Canadian bacon. Is Canadian bacon like the fakest bacon ever created?
It's just ham. It's just a ham
It's just
steak.
ham. That's what I'm saying. It's not
Yeah.
bacon.
Hey, at
You
least it's
know,
still ham. All right, it's still from the
Yeah.
pig. Fuck like
Yeah.
turkey bacon. That's a supposer. All right, get
Turkey
out of
bacon.
here.
Ham was growing up, and its ham parents were like, you can be anything you want to be when you grow up. That's not how life works, okay? You can't
Yeah.
just call yourself bacon.
Yeah. Come on now. We got standards for that. So on that note, welcome back to Not a Strong Start, a podcast by filmmakers who talk movies, television, and define bacon terms. I'm your host. My hips don't lie.
I am not your host. Music to my ears.
And I'm
Bacon
your other guy, trip like I do in Purple Rain
while eating bacon.
while eating bacon.
In this week's episode, we are not going to be talking more about bacon. We already did that right before we hit record on this. But we're going to talk about some of the best original soundtrack. So, of course, movies, we know how synonymous music, sound effects, anything like that can like help heighten scenes. Have you guys seen clips online where they swap out the songs? Like I've seen some where like they'll show like on Harry Potter, where all of a sudden they throw like a romance song, and then you see Voldemort,
Oh,
and you see Harry Potter, and
Yes.
now it looks like a romance, and
I,
it's like, oh, that's so creepy.
I think I did that with one of
You
it's
did.
on our Instagram
Yeah.
with Halloween.
Yes, you did,
We
man.
put in pony to it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, man. That's awesome. So we see the power of how music changes scenes. And you guys know good as well, like, especially when it comes to like superhero movies or action heroes, every time it's like that cool badass hero scene, every time it's like they're ready to go to war, it's always like that hype music that kind of gets you going and gets you riled up and ready to go. So like that music, how important is it to you guys? Music and movies, how synonymous are they?
I've gone to watch movies based off the music in the trailer sold me. Where it was like, I don't know about the
Yes.
story, but that song hyped me up. What I want, and I've seen movies just based off
Suicide
the
Squad.
right music. Yeah, Suicide Squad. I think there was this. I don't remember what it was called. It was this old Vin Diesel movie that I remember. And in the trailer, they use like a puddle of mud song, and it just fit so well. And I was like, I want to. It ended up being good. The trailer, but the trailer, they just picked the right song.
And it's worse when you're expecting to hear that song at some point in the movie and they don't. It's
And
like,
it's
man, you
never
waited,
there. And
and
it's
it's never
not there.
there.
Oh, this shit
Yeah.
pisses me off.
Me too, man. Me too. How about you, George?
Especially someone who dabbles in music, like I played instruments growing up as a kid and stuff like that. Like music is such a huge part of the movie for me. Like we talked about certain movies like Spider-Man and stuff like that. I think you mentioned Jose watching a movie because of hearing a song. For me, that movie was Constantine with Keanu Reeves. It used a song from A Perfect Circle, and I was just like, I love A Perfect Circle. And I was just like, it gave his whole vibe. Luckily, the song plays somewhere within the film, but it's just like I was like, oh man, like he's not Constantine whatsoever, but that song got me in it. Like, let's do this. Okay, whatever, why not? I don't care, as long as I get to hear that kind of vibe to the whole thing, I'm in.
Yeah.
You know
Well, what's
whose
fun?
movies have been
Oh,
good about that?
hmm.
About just having the right song in the trailer to get you intrigued. Peel.
Jordan
Yeah,
Peele.
yeah, Jordan Peele's
Absolutely.
song selections are perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's really an art form to it. And here's a movie like franchises say that gets under respected sometimes is the movie Shrek. They have a very strong soundtrack sometimes when you're watching their
Yeah.
scenes, and even some of their action scenes, they'll choose songs that like way overheighten it, and you see Shrek kind of running and he's doing all these cool action things, but like it makes it way more like heightened when you're seeing the scene and makes it way more cooler, and it's just a cartoon Shrek running around. But like, yeah, absolutely, the music can really alter and view how we see it, especially when it's songs that you love or like trigger points for you, maybe like in your life, and you kind of connect it to something in your life, or like you see it as like big and badass and all that. It always makes it seem cooler, especially when they can edit the fight scenes or the punches or the kicks to certain parts of the music, that's when it's edited so well, man. That's when it gets props to the editing. Before we get into that, let's hit you with the current event.
This actually it's from quite a few weeks ago before the movie came out. The movie is already out, but we did an episode in the past about marketing strategy when it comes to movies. And one of the strategies for the new Strangers movie that they were doing is these videos started coming out of Ring cameras where you were having people with masks walking up to houses. From what I saw, they didn't get into more detail whether this was a planned house, someone they already knew. I hope it is, because if not, that is a dangerous game to be playing. You know, we already dealt a few years ago with those clowns that were walking around just stalking people. If you start walking around to people's houses like that, you're just asking to get sprayed or get bitten by someone's dog at that point. But that was their strategy that they were coming out with, and that video kind of went viral before the movie came out. If it was planned and that house isn't some random person's house, I think it's a good strategy to market for the movie. What are you guys' thoughts on doing something like that for a movie and then this specific one itself? George?
I mean, that's daring as hell. I will say, because if it's planned, yeah, that's really cool. It's smart, but it kind of like makes you think back to the days of the Blair Witch and stuff like that, you know, having like the missing posters and everything like that. But at the same time, like, you are asking for trouble. Let's say it's real, and then people feel inspired to mimic it. That's a dangerous thing. And you don't want to have your movie tied to that then. Because if it goes wrong, that lives with you. And then say goodbye to part 2 and 3 to that freaking trilogy.
I think even if it's fake, you can inspire people.
Yeah, so I mean, like, if it is, let's say if it's not like the whole thing was like staged,
Yeah.
other people are gonna be like, "Well, I want to do that now because that was funny or that was cool." And kids already do some stupid stuff like that on TikTok as it is. It doesn't take much to inspire them with this kind of stuff.
Oh yeah. It's
people
true.
people be stealing other people's groceries on TikTok, and I was like, "Huh, these are my groceries now. Bye, bitch." You know?
Or licking ice cream and putting it back on the shelves.
Yeah, and
Oh my God.
people are getting shot for stuff like that. So imagine coming to someone's house. Oof. That's a dangerous one. But, you know, as of right now, it's still cool. So as a spectator, it's like, oh, that's funny. I'm okay with it for now.
That's all I saw in the comments. It was pretty much to summarize all the comments is I wish a person would. That's pretty much all I saw there. Ben, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's really smart how they're approaching that strategy. But like what George is saying is that it can obviously inspire others. I have to think that first one was staged, because how else are you going to get the ring footage, right? Like
Yeah.
only the owner of the ring footage has access to that. So if people are doing it to copy the trend, well, they're never going to get footage. They're never going to get the footage of what they have there unless they set up the phone and do the fisheye lens next to the door to make it look like it. But then again, you could just do it in front of your house and like you wouldn't really know the difference. But again, we're talking about younger kids following TikTok trends, and they're
Yeah.
not the smartest when it comes to this. So it's inspiring. Doing crime is not the way to motivate and get people to come watch this. That's not a good trend to follow, people. So try to avoid that one. But I thought it was pretty clever and interesting because you're able to give pretty good, like, little scary and build suspense and scares off of just very, very minimal budget costs at all, other than just advertisement. That's all it costs to do that. So smart. So other than that, we're gonna get into some of the best original soundtracks. We already discussed how we view it, how we kind of see it, like synonymous coming in with the movies. So what are some of the best original soundtracks?
So for the first one, I was trying to think through all these movies, and I was like, you know what? What is one soundtrack that since my childhood has been a hit, and till this day still has the longevity, still has the legs behind it, and easily recognizable, and that is the Lion King original soundtrack. There we had a combo of Elton John and Hans Zimmer, and we all know about Hans Zimmer. Okay, you don't mess with Hans Zimmer. All right, this guy is a legend. And then you team them with Elton John. So this soundtrack, first of all, it's included throughout the whole movie. You have the characters singing some of the songs in here, which made them stand out more iconic, because you're not just hearing them in the credits or in the background or at the beginning of the movie. They are part of the movie and they help tell the story of the movie, which is why I think what part of what makes this soundtrack really good and really powerful. You can actually listen to the soundtrack and kind of replay the story in your head, even without having the visuals. And I think that's a plus. And then on top of the some of the songs themselves are just everlasting. I think if some of these songs without being included in the movie, if these songs were just released on their own and the Lion King never existed, some of these songs were already be hits in general. So especially like Elton John songs, but you get the Circle of Life, Hakuna Matata, which people, yeah, I remember kids everywhere, adults everywhere are always like, "Hey, Hakuna Matata." It means no worries. You know, it kind of became like a lingo, like a mantra out there. So you have like that song, the "Can You Feel the Love Tonight?" Like that ballad that you have there, which you can still put in any like romance movie and it will fit. And it fits so well within that story in there. Although they should not have the lioness giving that look in there. I don't know. Like it's that moment.
It gave
That
mixed
little
That
look,
what
messages.
that come and get it
that
look?
little
You don't like
look,
that?
but not
Yeah.
only like can you feel the love tonight gives that little like that little look out there. It's like, wait, animation is not supposed to be giving that look.
No, no, yeah.
Did that make you feel a little tingly in certain places?
You'll be like, where's the jungle?
He went from
Uh
Simba to Mufasa.
Yeah. Mufasa, Mufasa,
but
Mufasa.
But yeah, you have those classic songs, and even the ones that were not my favorite, they fit so well within the movie and the character. So like, be prepared. The song itself, not one of my favorite songs from that soundtrack, but it fit the character so well in that moment, and who the essence of who that character is. I feel this soundtrack, again, it wasn't just supplemental and like to the side. It is a part of the movie, and which is why I consider this one of the best overall movie original soundtracks.
Fair enough. And it's Oscar winning, right? I mean,
I
it's
believe so.
yeah, it's Elton John proving he's that guy. So when you have like an Oscar winning soundtrack, movie, music and stuff like that, it definitely, I mean, it's Elton John, man. And
Well,
it's
I think
Elton
it
John at his peak.
revitalized his career because his career was kind of
Yes.
in a slump. Then he made that
Yes.
soundtrack and he was back again.
He was back again and like
Yeah.
better than ever. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like he was right back at his peak again. It was like, whoa, like you forgot who the hell he was. So
Mhm.
yeah.
So I'm gonna make them remember
Like
the king
Yeah.
has risen again.
exactly, man. Exactly. All right, George, what do you got?
For me, I'm going to bring us back to the 80s and I'm going to go with Purple Rain by Prince and the Revolution.
Hmm.
I still rock this movie and this soundtrack till today. It has so many bangers in it. Obviously, the title song "Purple Rain." Freaking one of the ones I like a lot is "Darling Nikki," which is about a floozy chick or so. But the biggest thing I love about this soundtrack is why it was even made. He made this movie and the soundtrack because it was his response to Michael Jackson's Thriller album. Michael Jackson was like on top of the world with Thriller, and not like Prince wasn't anybody, but people weren't looking at Prince as like the it guy. And he's like, I'm the guy. All right. It's like, I'm so much the guy. Come next year, I'm gonna be on like you're gonna see me everywhere. And I'm gonna be taking all the Grammys home. And he did. He won almost like every Grammy that year for everything he was nominated in. It's such a freaking good soundtrack. And I honestly the movie itself isn't bad. Now, granted, maybe it's nostalgia speaking for me, but I honestly felt like Prince does a good job in this movie. Like, but it's because he's playing himself. Maybe that's why. He's not really pretending much. He's
There
just
was no
being
script.
the kid is
Even
Prince.
though the camera was on.
Yeah.
Yeah, there
I
was
mean,
no script.
the person that he's having the love interest with, he had a real love interest in real life. So it's like there's very
Game
little pretending
blouses.
here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then right at the end, he just turns to the camera when he realizes it's on and he's like, game.
Glasses.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and that whole album, like I think it solidified like his look and persona going forward. Because even like albums prior to that, it still felt like he was trying to find himself and like who he was as an artist. After Purple Rain, that's it. Prince was concrete. He was everywhere. And like because of that album, he got to do the soundtrack of Batman, which is another great like, original soundtrack.
Good choice, man. And that movie, I agree with you. I think the movie holds weight still. Like it was solid. It wasn't
Right?
sometimes you have such a great soundtrack that it feels like they build a movie around it. right? And then
Yeah.
sometimes you have like a great movie and it feels like they try to build a soundtrack around it. And usually one dominates the other. So that's why today it's not a coincidence that we seem to keep mentioning really good movies with even great, possibly better soundtracks. But like the movies themselves are still carrying weight and still being solid within themselves. And I
Yeah.
think Purple Rain definitely follows that.
And that's the thing, like, and like, all the music in there, it's like it's not just him. Like he's the
Yeah.
majority of it, but when you watch the movie, like you're getting songs from Morris Day and the Time, which he produced. So it's just
Mhm.
like he's the songwriter for all this stuff, but you're
Yeah.
still getting to hear different voices, tell that story.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, so I had to go with the Mecca, the Omega, the Alpha of soundtrack making maestros, and I had to go with John Williams. Had to go with John Williams. Like this guy is like the king of original soundtracks to me, of movie soundtracks. Even this T-shirt inspired by some of his work, but I ended up going with Star Wars because Star Wars, you can sit here and argue what's the most important, what's the most like captivating, what's the most memorable thing of Star Wars. You can mention Darth Vader, you can mention lightsabers, you can mention the visuals, which everything is. To me, it's the soundtrack, it's the music, it's the building. It's you can hear the theme song, and everybody is going to start picking out all their best or favorite Star Wars moments, their themes. It inspires you to go to Disneyland. It inspires you to go to want to watch the movies. Like you're automatically drawn to having to do this. And he perfectly captures the emotions of the characters, and even Darth Vader's theme song with the Imperial March. Like it the characters have their own signature music, and John Williams perfectly captures that. And all the movies he's done, the dude he's just amazing. Like he is so brilliant as a musician, as a music composer, of course. But like Star Wars, I think is like his opus. Like that was the big one. And I think without the music soundtrack, Star Wars would be it would be nowhere near as popular as it was. The music completely elevated that project, where even the Darth Vader, and when we think how badass he is, it's his music, man. When you hear the music and you hear the Imperial March, you automatically then start thinking of the most badass moments of Darth Vader, but you have absolutely zilch without that badass theme song.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that.
That's a good choice. I mean, kind of like Hans Zimmer that I mentioned
Hmm.
for the Lion King. John Williams is also up there as one of the greats when it comes to creating these movie scores that are memorable all around. Like you said with the Imperial March, that will forever be used, even if it's not Star Wars related. I think I'm a I'm a Yankee fan, as you can see here, and I, I I've heard it used before, even when referring because the Yankees have been called the evil empire and all that stuff. So it's like it's so iconic, and he's created so many of those iconic scores that if you see John Williams is attached to a project, you do not need to worry about that movie score. It's gonna hit no matter what.
What's funny too is that I heard the story about when he originally developed the score for Jaws, they thought it was a joke. They're like, this isn't the real soundtrack. But then when they actually compared it and hearing it with the shark, that's when Steven Spielberg was like, oh my God, okay, I see the genius now. But when he first heard it, he thought it was a joke. And then when you see it on screen, it's like, oh my God, that's the power of John Williams, man.
And
Captures that
John
emotion.
Williams went up close to him and whispered in his ear, "Don't ever question me again."
Exactly.
Yeah, and it still hits all ages too, because like I remember playing the John Williams scores when I was in high school marching band, and
Hmm.
we did the Jaws, we did Star Wars, we did Indy, and everyone in the crowd, from kids to adults, they got super pumped. Like this was the best part of the day because let's be honest, Jose, our football team wasn't the greatest football team. We won one game every year. That was it. So at a certain point, our marching band became more of a spectacle than the
Yeah,
football
yeah.
team. But like I remember that year when we did just all his songs, it hit. It hit so hard.
For my next one, I'm gonna go with a soundtrack for this one. This is for a movie that's not great, and I wouldn't say that the soundtrack songs are amazing either, but it was definitely memorable. I'll tell you that much. And I remember watching it. I think I was in high school when this came out, and there was some tunes that get caught in your head, and you're singing it, and that is the soundtrack for the movie. Together from MTV.
Oh yeah.
Which one is that?
Oh yeah, I remember
Together?
that. Oh
The MTV movie Together. It was the
yes.
movie that they made. It's kind of like the like Spinal Tap, but for a pop band.
Yeah.
And it's the
Mm,
creation of this fake band and how they come together. This is
mm.
back during the boy band craze. So MTV
Okay.
made this movie.
It was the high point
Uh,
of boy bands. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
this is like the NSYNC, Backstreet Boys,
Nice.
98 Degree Days, and all that stuff. So they made this fake band, but then the songs ended up actually like hitting, and I think the album sold very well, and the song became like
Mm,
popular, you know. And it was a lot of dumb songs. Like the main hit of it was "You Plus Me Equals Us." It was the Calculus song
Yeah.
in there. Their rival band, it's on the soundtrack, but their
yeah.
rival band, the one that they were the like NSYNC and Backstreet Boys, while what this band's trying to be established, their song was called "Rub One Out." I'll let you guess what that's about.
Back massages.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly. It's a parody movie, based off of that. So the songs were supposed to be tongue in cheek and funny, and while it's not, if you just isolate it as the music itself and try to critically judge the songs, it's not great. But it accomplished what it was meant to do. It fit the narrative of the movie, it fit the tone of the movie. And surprisingly, it became popular enough that they released a second album and then they had a TV show
Yeah.
on top of that, which is way more than they probably expected at the beginning. I think the second album they had the song no the hardest
Oh.
part of breaking up is getting back your
Oh
stuff.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
Dan, you never seen the
It sounds
Together?
familiar. The
It,
the, the U
it
plus
had
me
Farley's
equals.
brother in it.
Yeah, Kevin Farley was in it. Yeah, as the old guy. As
Oh
the
Yeah,
man.
he was the old guy in the band.
That sounds
Uh,
familiar because the U plus me equals we, right? Is that what it is?
us.
U plus
Us.
equals
Yeah.
us. That sounds familiar, man. I'm trying to think which actors was in this. It feels foggy to me.
Yeah, Kevin
Like,
Farley would probably be the most recognizable.
okay,
Yeah.
The other band members, I don't even know if they did anything, including one
okay.
of them unfortunately died at a young age because
Yeah.
he had
Oh,
a pre-existing condition.
oh,
So
okay.
none of them really did much after that.
Sounds familiar,
Uh,
man.
but yeah,
Okay.
so it was just a fun, like tongue-in-cheek parody of the times. You watch it now, unless you were like there, it probably won't hold up and you won't
Mm,
really like it. But at the time, it there was so many reference to what was going on in the world of music at that
yeah.
time that it really fit, and the soundtrack worked with it. And the thing is, like, there was certain songs that it was like, gee, that's not too bad. That's actually a good ballad. Oh, that was good. Well, until you mentioned that. Now you mentioned that. Before that, it was good.
Because they were all
Uh,
sexual in one way or another. They were like
God.
overtly sexual.
yeah, yeah. You had the threesome song, which I think the
Yeah.
George, the one you were referring to, in there, where he didn't know that was her sister.
Yeah.
Uh,
Dude, this sounds really familiar, man. I have to like take a look at
I'm
it.
sure
I'm
if
sure
you
I've
see it,
seen it.
unfortunately, the movie you can't get it anywhere now
Yeah.
because I was trying to look it up to get like the song track list and everything, and it became like a collectible, so it's hard to find.
Wow.
But the movie itself, actually, someone put it onto YouTube, so you've got the whole movie on
Oh,
YouTube.
nice.
So
Okay.
when I was making this, I'm like, let me rewatch it, and
It's
it's
so
the
funny.
I mean, it's not HD.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
probably like 480p, the square
Yeah.
and everything,
That's
not
funny.
widescreen, but it brought me back to like those days. So like I have this is a guilty pleasure. This is an appreciation for this song. So I had to throw it in here. I was annoying Joe afterwards, just singing the songs. I was like behind there, like you plus me equals us.
That's funny. All right, sure.
I totally support that pick, man. That's so good. That's
Great pick.
you know, there's a new show out called Girls Five Eva, and it's kind of like the same kind of thing, but instead it's like with a
Mhm.
girl group. I think if you
Was it
liked
good?
if I watched all three seasons and it was funny.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, yeah, you liked it.
I just binge watched it like a week ago.
Nice.
It has that same feel though. It's the exact
Yeah.
same kind of motif and everything. Just now instead they're all older and like they were just one hit wonders and they're trying to get that
Oh, that's
fame back.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is that
Wait,
streaming on?
It was originally on Peacock, the first 2 seasons, and then they didn't renew, so Netflix took it and they added
Mm.
the third season there. All right, I'm gonna go with my second one. My second one is also to a movie that isn't very celebrated, but I think the soundtrack overshadows it 1,000 times over. And that movie is Spawn, the original
Mm.
soundtrack.
S to the P to the A to the Y. S to the P to the A to the R. Go Sparty.
And this is one of those ones, like some of the ones we've mentioned so far, the music is used directly in the movie by characters that are in it, while this is actually just known artists that are here just to supplement the movie itself. And I thought that there's something really cool with this soundtrack because in the movie, the character of Spawn, which is Al Simmons, he has this suit, this outfit that's almost a living thing on its own, almost like a Venom of sorts. So they played on that duality of the character and what he does and what the suit can do. And they did so all the artists are paired up. So you got artists like Filter and the Crystal Method coming together to do songs like Trip Like I Do. The Prodigy did a song with Tom Morello. You had a bunch of big artists, Marilyn Manson, Kurt Hammett, even Metallica as a whole band. Huge freaking songs. And I still go back to this soundtrack to today. Like actually when I was thinking of this episode, I was listening to this soundtrack. And I was like, man, there's some really dope soundtracks out there. We should talk about that. This is what inspired that whole thing right here.
this is the one.
Yeah, and it still hits. Like there's like they're hype songs. Like they have that whole like doom doom got doom got kind of feel and everything. It's like you just get like want to do something. It's like I want to blow something up.
I'm gonna go do my taxes.
Yeah,
Very aggressively.
Yeah.
damn you, the government.
Go
to
You got
hell.
me again.
Where's box 15?
There was one song like I love the first title track of Trip Like I Do, but there's another song that's called Satan, and I would play it whenever I do the third shift back at like my old job when I was younger. And there'd be other people working third shift with me, and I have my boombox blaring. They just hear Satan, 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 Satan. They're like, "What the is going on? What are you listening to, George?" I was like, "Oh, it's a nice little ditty from the Spawn soundtrack."
You play during the witching hour. That way it's like
Yeah,
perfect time.
right at 12 o'clock.
Yeah, right there. To kind of go in line with what you were saying, George, or with Jose, sorry. When I went with one that the music is better than I thought it was gonna be, and like it helped elevate everything. I went with Tenacious D. Jack Black was known as, a great
That's a good
comedic
one.
actor. But when I saw their show on HBO, which I think is phenomenal, their movie's really good and it's got a lot of, good stuff, but it was their show on HBO. That one season that they had was so magical with Jack Black and Kyle Gass. I remember watching it and it's so good and so clever to me. This is when the songs are actually good and then the lyrics and stuff, you get the comedy with it. And when they balance the two, I just give way more flowers to the people that can do that, like those comedic actors that can do that, because they're combining the two worlds and it's so important that they're good musically. And Tenacious D, if you were to just not even watch any of the visuals in it and just like hear the music, it is good, man. Like they are good musically. Jack
Yeah.
Black is really damn good. I just saw him do the cover of the Britney Spears,
Yeah.
Hit Me Baby One More Time. He sounds better than she does on the track. Like he's so good, man. Like obviously because he does the Peaches song, on the Mario Brothers song, but Tenacious D, man, like there's a whole cult following with them. I remember seeing a comedy show where they had all these different comedy acts, and we saw Tenacious D perform. Like they were awesome. They had Fly the Conchords, which was great too. But Tenacious D, man, Tenacious D, Jack Black, legend.
That's a good choice. I actually was a fan of the soundtrack way before I watched the movie. I liked the
Yeah.
soundtrack. I was like,
Mm.
oh, I like these songs. And then way later, I actually saw the movie.
Yeah, nice.
There
And
was
you saw it
a
was funny, huh?
there was a
Yeah.
karaoke bar that actually had "Fuck Her Gently" in the lineup.
Nice.
And it's
Did you
like,
do
well, we
it?
got to do that one. Well, we got.
Yeah, it's good.
It's like that's a
Good.
must.
Yeah, he's got everybody grooving to it. Like hell yeah,
Yeah, because it's such a sweet song.
it
It's total
is.
opposite of the typical like rocker stuff that they do.
Yeah.
Just the nice little ballad.
Yeah, man, it is. It's like you see the over the top, like because 80s rock, 70s, 80s rock was so over the top, so ridiculous, like having like Dio and things like that, like
Yeah.
dragons and mystical and fantasy. You see what's in the head of Jack Black, and that's what's so great about watching the show or the movie, is because you see what's in his head and you hear what the music sounds, but then all of a sudden we see the reality in our world where it's just not appreciated. You got people on the outside just watching him just dance around like a dragon on stage. It's like, what the hell is he doing?
Brigadoo-doo.
Yeah, exactly. Man, Tenacious D is one of those ones where if you haven't seen it in a while, go back and rewatch it, man. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
And the HBO show particularly was amazing.
For my last one, I have a score, and I had to go with Tron Legacy. The score that was made by Daft
Yes.
Punk. It's pretty much straight score. You get some random dialogue from the actual movie mixed in there as it goes into the score. But it was something about this soundtrack. I would just put it on in the background while I was doing things. Like if I was gonna clean, I'll have the soundtrack on. If I was getting ready sometimes, and it just made everything more epic to do. You know, just a simple, making a breakfast sandwich in the morning felt like I was, on my way to defeat a boss and rule the world. Well, this song, everything was just so much more hyped in there. So I would just play it when I'm going to do something mundane, and it just helped kind of get through it in a little more fun way. And I like when soundtracks can do that. Another soundtrack that's not an original soundtrack that kind of did that was like the first Guardians of the Galaxy soundtrack. I would just put that on in the background, and it just made whatever I was doing better. And this Tron soundtrack did that. There's a epicness to it. And after listening to it, I'm like, Daft Punk needs to do more movie scores.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully they bring them back when they do the new Tron. I hope they bring them
Oh, that'd
back
be
to kind
great.
of work on that
Mm-hmm.
score. Because this one it hit beginning to end.
Yeah, I
Like
remember that
if
movie came out when it was like near my birthday in December, and we all watched it. And after that, we were playing like Derezed on loop,
Yep.
just over and over again.
Yeah.
it feels like if Daft Punk was ever gonna work on a movie soundtrack, there was no other option other than Tron.
Yeah,
Like, you know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Like that's the one that they would have to do. And the fact that they mastered it, like, yeah, I expect it. Like they're amazing at this. It goes perfectly with computer synthesized, world that we're seeing. Like that's exactly it. That's exactly what I would expect them to do.
The one I'm gonna finish off with a score
Wait, real
also.
quick, George.
What?
Other George has something to say.
Hey everyone, let's take a moment to talk about where I've been getting these new Not a Strong Start t-shirts from. Head on over to itsnas.threadless.com, the only place where you can get Not a Strong Start merch, whether it's our newly designed mascot or just your favorite movie logo now with some NASS flair. You can rep your NASS love on tee, hoodie, mug, rug, and so much more. So get yours today. Just click on that link below and have yourself a strong start. And not a strong, have a not a strong start, have a start that's strong, but not so strong. You know what to do.
Whoa, George. You got us again.
Wow.
Wow. Wowzers.
Did not expect that.
Right. Come out of nowhere sometimes, man. All right. I'm gonna go with a score to end with, and that score is gonna be from Requiem for a Dream. This was
Oh.
done by the Kronos Quartet.
Mhm.
And that thing, like, yeah, everyone knows that freaking hit.
Mhm.
Like like invokes a certain emotion, especially if you've seen the movie. If you've seen the movie, it's a deeper emotion because you just feel all of that tension and everything that each character is going through. But even without seeing the movie, I feel like that soundtrack still hits. Like that's one of those like scores where like I put it on the background and like I used to write to this score, especially if it was something I wanted to have that deepness to it and just like there's stuff going on. I wanted to write to this. This is where I want to be really creative. So like when I used to do a writing program with kids back in the day in the summer, and I would put this on, and it's like we're gonna listen to this, guys, and just write whatever you feel. All right.
Everything's all dark, morbid, and evil.
Honestly,
and
like
sad
it kind of
emotion.
brought out like the Edgar Allan Poe in some
Yeah,
kids.
yes, man. Yeah.
But yeah,
Dude,
this one hits like
yeah.
deep
I
right here.
I had that on my list too as one of them as well.
I knew one of you would.
Yeah, man. I love the movie and I love the song. Darren Aronofsky is such a visual, like he's a senses director. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like you could smell it, you can hear it, you can taste it, you can see it, and the soundtrack goes so perfectly tied into that because it feels weird. It feels kind of ugly. There's an ugly beautifulness to that soundtrack where it kind of makes you feel a little anxiety when you're listening to it, which
Yeah.
is exactly what that movie does. So yeah, well done, man.
Great
All right,
choice.
so For mine, I went with. Now I'm going back to a soundtrack. I really want to say two of them because they're both very similar. Okay, so I can describe the same thing for both of these songs. Okay, so the movies not good. Both movies have a cult following though, but it's the music. It's the music that you know, you hear it, and you think it's so. At least for one of them, more in particularly, it's so badass. Flash Gordon.
Yes. Yes.
Oh,
Hold on. You said two movies. Are both
Yes.
movies the same artist?
No,
Oh,
no.
okay. Okay.
Different, okay? So Flash Gordon is one of them.
Yeah.
The other one, but huge cult following for the movie, but the movie's not good. If you really just watch it
Yeah.
for what it
Yeah.
is, it's not good, guys. We got to be honest here, okay? We give it its extra props because it's cheesy and it's everything that we love. But it's that song that just like when it hits, and it's like, yeah, like it hypes up the scene way more than it needs to be because that song is just so badass. The other one, which I love this song. The movie I didn't love, and I was very late to watching this movie, which is why I think I'm more like, it's not that good. They're remaking it. Barbarella. I love that
Oh, yeah.
Barbarella song, man. I hear it. I'll play it on my soundtrack. Like something weird, vibey, 70s, like very, even the director, is like this really you guys were talking about that Jose, you were talking about that show Together where all the things like sexual innuendos. This whole
uh,
movie of Barbarella was sexual innuendo.
Yeah.
The entire movie was that. The director was just a horn dog, just trying to bang Fonda the entire time, you could tell. But the song was just I love the Barbarella song, man. Like I loved it way more than I loved the movie. And like Barbarella was one of those ones where like I like the idea of Barbarella a lot. That song is amazing. It needed to be redone in my eyes because like it could be done so well if it's modernized, done better with better talent behind it, directing it, and not a sleazeball directing it. You can get us a really good movie.
I mean, it sounds like Sydney Sweeney is trying to be the one in this Barbarella, but it looks like Edgar
Is
Wright is being looked at.
yes, that he's
So you might get
that's
something with more quality, but still super
yep.
sexy.
That speaking of Twitter beast, that was one of them that I jumped in. Somebody's like, Edgar Wright hasn't been good for the last few movies. I'm like, Baby Driver wasn't good.
Do I have to
Excuse
smack a
me?
bitch?
I try not to be. You know what?
Wait,
okay.
come on, man.
No,
Come
no, no,
on,
no,
man.
no. I'm gonna get out of this
it's
part
not
right
working, man.
now.
Come on, please, please.
Yeah, like, are you fucking kidding me? You're saying Edgar Wright would not do Barbarella right? Get the hell out of here. That was one of the ones that I jumped in. I'm like, I can't just sit
erroneous
out
on
these
all
vibes.
accounts.
Seriously, you know what I mean? Like even last night in Soho, like it was still visually very nice, even though it had some story issues. But the guy could still direct, man. Come on.
All right, one quick. We don't have to dive into it. Just one quick honorable mention from everyone.
Good. I'm glad you said that because I definitely had
Good.
one.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Good. Who wants to go first?
I guess I'll take it because you opened it up by saying Queen and Flash Gordon. So I assumed the second one was going to be Highlander because for me Highlander is definitely up there. Princess of the Universe.
Mhm.
My God, I rock
Mhm.
out to that song so much. And the
Queen,
thing is,
bro.
it's if you don't know the full song, people get fooled by it because the all you know from the song, most people is like from the TV show and the intro,
Mhm.
and it's just the guitar riff, and you hear
Mhm.
him freaking squealing. It's so good, but the rest of the song, it's actually kind of goofbally, and it has some whimsy to it. And I love part of it. That's the part I love so much because it's kind of
Yeah.
almost like operatic and epic.
It's
Oh,
Queen, bro.
it's Queen, yeah. It's
Yeah.
such a good freaking soundtrack. It's
Yeah.
under celebrated in my opinion.
Yes.
I'm gonna go with another animated movie, a more recent one where every song hit to the point I added it to my Spotify
You're gonna say
afterwards,
Trolls.
and I was singing it after. No, well, but Trolls wasn't too bad.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
I'm gonna go with Encanto
Oh,
in
okay.
there.
That's a good one.
That hit, and I remember I was bopping to that song, to those
Mhm.
songs like weeks after, especially We Don't Talk About Bruno. So that's my honorable mention.
Yeah, because we used to have a host on here named Bruno, but we don't talk about him either. That's why he's not on the show
No,
anymore.
no.
Not talking about him.
We don't talk about him. All right. For me, I'm gonna go with a score on this one. And I have to go with one like even when I first started learning guitar, I had to learn how to play this one immediately. The Godfather one. Man, that Godfather. I still know how to play to this day, even though despite the fact that I forgot of many songs of how to play the guitar, I still know how to play Godfather, man. When you hear it coming in, it's got that perfect Italian vibes to it, like so perfect for the mafioso. When you hear it blending into the music the way that Francis Ford Coppola did with the movie, so beautifully done. Sets the scenes up perfectly, setting it up with the heartbreak and everything that comes with it. I love that Godfather. Love it. Okay. On that note, thank you for watching another episode of Not a Strong Start. Please like, subscribe, comment on our YouTube channel, Not a Strong Start. You can listen to us anywhere you listen to your podcast. You can follow us on Instagram at Twitter, Not a Strong Start. I'm your host. My hips don't lie. You can follow me at King_Sangre.
And I am not your host, Music to My Ears. And you can find me at This Is Mi Nombre on Instagram.
And I am Trip Like I Do in Purple Rain. And you can follow me at Nicolopolis.